Hello everyone and welcome to Tareekh. In today's episode, we will be telling you about the food habits of the Mughal kings. Mughal cuisine was shaped by various influences: Turkish, Persian, Afghani, mixed with Punjabi, Kashmiri, and even Deccan. The meals in the royal household started with the recitation of Bismillah Rahman Rahim, which means in the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. The first Mughal Badshah is Babur. After the fall of the Delhi Sultanate with the defeat of Ibrahim Lodi, who was the last Lodi ruler, Babur, who was a Mughal king, he had defeated him in the first battle of Panipat. He had come from Kabul, and with him started the Mughal Empire. His birthplace was Fargana, which is in Central Asia, present-day Uzbekistan, and over there he was really fond of eating grapes and melons.
With the entry of the Mughals in the political climate, the food habits of Indians also changed, and they changed for the better. Now Babur was very interested in fruits, but उनका जो interest था, it was not because of his amusement but because of food. So when Babur encountered India properly for the first time, he was a little bit disappointed. He saw a lack of a lot of things that did bother him. उनके हिसाब से symmetry नहीं थी काम में. There were no specialized crafts. Fruits में भी melons नहीं थे, grapes नहीं थे, बर्फ़ नहीं था, ठंडा पानी नहीं था. आम थे, उनको अच्छे भी लगते थे आम, but he used to feel कि यार आम है but it can be better. Like I'm not so impressed with it. I like it, but it's still not so impressive. What did impress him though was the availability of gold and silver, the availability of people who were ready to work, who were ready to learn workmanship in every kind, and also the fresh air that you would get, especially after the rains. Now, when Babur settled in India, there was a nostalgia for place that he came from, and so Babur planted a lot of gardens wherever he went. So, and then he imported seeds from Central Asia also. So he credibly planted gardens with melons, peaches, apricots, almonds, walnuts, you name it. But the foods that Babur relished included kebabs and chikki. Chikki was a kind of porridge made from wheat flour paste, meat, onions and ghee and some aromatic spices. अभी कोई gathering होती थी, then an alcoholic beverage which was a little bit like a cider was also prepared and consumed, and this was made out of apples, pears and grapes. He was also fond of consuming marjoram, which was a paste made out of poppy seeds, hashish seeds, walnuts, pista, cardamom, milk and honey. But Babur would refrain from drinking on Mondays, Thursdays and Fridays. And after setting up his court in Delhi, he wanted to taste Hindustani cuisine, so he ordered that the cooks of his predecessors be presented before him. About 50 or 60 were brought before him, but of them he only hired 4. Babur also developed a taste for freshwater and seawater fish that was readily available in India.
The second ruler is Humayun.
1539 के बाद Babur's son Humayun lost the empire temporarily to the Afghan ruler Sher Shah Suri. For 15 years he was outside of the subcontinent, and a sizable chunk of this time was spent in the court of the Shah of Persia, Shah Tahmasp. In 1555, with the help of Shah Tahmasp's military backing, Humayun regained the empire, and with him he brought a lot of Persian influence, especially in art, architecture, poetry, administration and food, because a lot of cooks were also brought with him. And a lot of staples from Persia entered the cuisine of the Mughal court. like sherbets that were served in snow-cooled water, food preserves, baked bread. और जो पर्शियन इन्फ्लुएंसेस हैं उनमें हमीदा बानो बेगम जो हुमायूं की पर्शियन वाइफ थी उनका भी बहुत बड़ा योगदान है बिकॉज शी इंट्रोड्यूस द यूज़ or the lavish use of saffron and dry fruits in the food that was cooked.
फन फैक्ट, हलवा जो बहुत ही बेहतरीन डिश है जो हम बहुत पसंद करते हैं, दैट वाज आल्सो इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बाय द पर्शियंस.
ना बाबर का बेटा हुमायूं, हुमायूं का
अकबर. अब बारी है अजीम व शान शहनशाह अकबर की, जो कि तीसरे मुग़ल बादशाह थे. तो अकबर के टाइम की जो क्यूज़ीन की बात करें तो उसका मेंशन हम देखते हैं आइन अकबरी में, विच वाज अ डिटेल क्रॉनिकल रिटन बाय अबुल फजल हु वाज अकबर्स प्राइम मिनिस्टर. एंड ऑल्सो मेनी यूरोपियन ट्रैवलर्स रोट अबाउट द क्यूज़ीन ऑफ अकबर्स टाइम. अंडर अकबर्स रेन द रॉयल किचन वाज अ डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ स्टेट विच used to keep reporting itself to the prime minister. तो एक बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स स्ट्रक्चर था जिसमें एक हेड कुक हैं आपके, देन यू हैव अ स्टोर कीपर, यू हैव क्लर्क्स, यू हैव 400 cooks from all over the subcontinent, from Persia, who knew how to make dishes from all over the subcontinent, Afghanistan, and some parts of Iran. There was a treasurer also who was involved in the Department of State that was only restricted to the royal kitchen. Food was served in gold, silver dishes, earthen dishes and stone dishes. और साथ ही साथ में इंस्पेक्शन भी बहुत होती थी. जब भी कोई डिश बनाई जाती थी और अकबर के टेबल तक आने से पहले it was checked by the head cook, it was tasted several times before it reached his dastarkhan. Ice which was used for cooling drinks, sherbets and for making frozen desserts, वो हिमालय से आते थे through a very complex courier structure. Finest of the finest ingredients reached the royal kitchen, चाहे वो duck हो, fowl हो, quality water butter हो. कश्मीर से ducks आती थी जो palace के अंदर ही the chickens were maintained. The palace chickens were fed with pellets that was coated in saffron and rose water, or they were everyday massaged with musk oil and sandalwood. So they were really kept well.
Oh, to be a chicken in the Mughal court.
So the concept of kitchen garden is not very new. कि आजकल हम देखते हैं कि लोग kitchen garden maintain करते हैं. But even during Akbar's period, a kitchen garden was maintained. तो उसमें for regular supply of fruits and vegetables. Rose water was used for irrigation and हो सकता है कोई flavor देता हो. Akbar was very fond of fruits because according to him, fruits were one of the finest creation of the creator.
Or to be a fruit in the Mughal garden. Getting irrigated by rose water, what's your problem?
Same. Akbar also brought horticulturists from Central Asia and Iran to supervise his orchards. Wide variety of fruits were grown in the Indian subcontinent, from peaches, apricots, walnuts, badams, pista, melons, pomegranates, plums, chestnuts, grapes, what not. All the juicy fruits that we relish today, especially during the summer time, was actually these fruits were introduced by them. According to Abu Fazl, the dishes were divided into 3 categories. The first category जो थी वो dishes vegetarian dishes होती थी and they were called सूफियाना. और जो ये dishes होती थी, vegetarian dishes होती थी, ये अकबर को सर्व की जाती थी जिस दिन वो मीट नहीं खाते थे. And they were कुश्का, plain boiled rice, pahit, lentils cooked with ghee, ginger, cumin seeds and hing, khichdi, then we have thuli, sweet and spicy cracked wheat porridge, chikhi, wheat flour, onions, spices, badanjan, which was aubergine cooked with onion, ghee and spices, saag, zarda, sweet rice cooked with saffron and various kinds of halwas. जो सेकंड कैटेगरी थी डिश की वो बेसिकली मीट थे एंड दैट वाज सर्व्ड विद राइस. कुबुली और काबुली, a mixture of rice, chickpea, onion and spices with meat. Keema pulao, rice and ground meat. Shula, chickpeas, onion, ghee, rice, meat, garlic, pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, cloves. Bugra, meat, flour, chickpeas, vinegar, crystallized sugar, carrots, beet, turnips, spinach and fennel leaves. Harissa, which had meat and cracked wheat. Kashk, meat with crushed wheat, chickpeas and aromatic spices. Halim, जो आजकल भी बहुत लोग खाते हैं, which is basically porridge of meat, cracked wheat, turnips, carrots, spinach and fennel leaves. Sanbusa, kutab, basically samosas, and there were around 20 varieties. जो थर्ड कैटेगरी की मीट डिशेस थी वो थी यखनी, which is basically a meat stock. मुसम्मन और आई थिंक मुसल्लम, which is stuffed roast chicken. दो प्याज़ा जो आज भी बहुत फेमस है. Meat prepared with 2 large onions. Dum pukht, meat cooked slowly with aromatic spices in a pot with a sealed lid. कलियाँ तो आज भी खाई जाती हैं, which is basically highly spiced meat with a thick gravy. Malguba, soup made from lamb, vegetable, lentils and rice. Biryan, which means the Persian word for frying and roasting, prepared from an Afghani Dashmandi sheep, ghee, saffron, cloves, pepper and cumin seeds and various kinds of kebabs. When you look at the name of the dishes, you hear them even in the present day. You eat them even in the present day time. And some of these dishes, you also find them in Central Asian countries, Afghanistan, Iran. Through this, we get to know that all of these dishes were influenced by Central Asian countries, Arab countries, Iran and Afghanistan. Wheat bread भी एक बहुत ही important dish थी जो अकबर बहुत पसंद करते थे. एक जो bread थी जो वो खाते थे, that was basically similar to a naan. And then another kind of bread that he really relished was similar to a pulka or a chapati. It was a flat thin bread which was made on an iron plate. Pickles were also served, yogurt, lemons were also served along with the larger meals. Till the time of Akbar, red chilies, जिसके बिना हम अपने खाने की कल्पना भी नहीं कर सकते, that particular spice had not reached northern part of the Indian subcontinent, though it had reached the southern part. Potatoes and tomatoes were also missing from the cuisine, but one fruit that reached northern part of India was pineapple. According to Abul Fazl, pineapple was sold at a price which equal to 10 mangoes. Tobacco had also reached the Indian subcontinent by this time, though it had reached Deccan first, but it reached Akbar's court with the help of a courtier who brought it to the court, and it became really, happening in Akbar's court. It was consumed by many. Though the Akbar's cuisine would seem very opulent, and fancy, but he himself led a very austere and ascetic lifestyle. He preferred eating only once in the entire day. That too, he would stop before his stomach was full. जो हम आज OMAD कहते हैं जिसको, 1 meal a day, which is and a lifestyle that many are adapting to. Akbar used to do that in the 16th century. Also, he preferred eating alone. He liked eating alone, and he preferred vegetarian dishes over meat dishes. And apparently, during his later years, he turned to a total vegetarian. He also banned cow slaughter in his court, and he also banned eating meat, especially during the month when he had ascended his throne, because he believed that if we will not eat meat during that month, that the year would be very auspicious. And he tried to tell people to not eat meat and not, kill animals, because that is something, very, according to him, inhuman, or we should refrain from eating meat. He had his different thought process, and he preferred being more of a vegetarian than a meat lover. Also, another very fascinating aspect about Akbar is that he used to only drink Ganga water, and also he preferred that his food should be cooked in Ganga water. Chautha Badshah, Jahangir.
Now, when Jahangir came to the throne, he honored his father's wish of not killing for food inside the court, and he honored that on 2 days. On Thursdays, which was the day of his accession, and also on Sunday, which was the day when Akbar was born. Jahangir was especially fond of khichdi, especially a variety of khichdi that he came across in Western India, in Gujarat, which was khichdi made out of bajra. Although unlike his father, Jahangir enjoyed his meat, especially wild game. Edward Terry, who was an ambassador from, or the English ambassador in Jahangir's court, observed that Jahangir did not like to eat large portions of meat, but he did enjoy his meat being cut into small pieces, and for that to be cooked in a stew of onions and herbs and spices. Jahangir was also very fond of drinking. In fact, his consort Noor Jahan also experimented with brewing wine. She also introduced rainbow colored yogurt dishes which were decorated with pretty patterns made out of rice powder, made out of a rice powder glaze and candied fruits.
Another fun fact, the term sabzi comes from Persia.
The next Badshah is Shah Jahan.
Shah Jahan was the 5th Mughal emperor, and इनके टाइम पे जो कि कैपिटल था वो आगरा से उन्होंने दिल्ली शिफ्ट किया 1638 में, because Agra became very crowded, and also he wanted to experiment with architecture as he loved art and architecture. So he was not getting much space there, so he shifted his capital to Delhi and founded a city called Shah Jahanabad. His period was also a period where a lot of things flourished. Art flourished, poetry flourished, architecture flourished, food also flourished. Shah Jahan was also credited with adding a lot of spices to his cuisine. कहते हैं हल्दी, धनिया, ज़ीरा, and also by this time Portuguese के साथ काफ़ी relation था ही, court में भी थे, and a lot of Europeans were also a part of the Mughal court. So chilies entered the Mughal cuisine, and they were used as spicing agent in various dishes. Potatoes and tomatoes also reached the northern subcontinent, the Mughal court, the royal kitchen, and because of this, and because of Shah Jahan introducing so much in the cuisine, we can see that now the cuisine has become more flavorful, more colors are added, spices are added, and it is more varied than his predecessors. मुग़ल दस्तरखान पे सिर्फ कोरमास, कलियास, कबाब्स नहीं होते थे. European cakes and puddings were also found, and which that also became a part of the Mughal cuisine, especially during Shah Jahan's period. Daily meals were usually served by eunuchs, and एक proper command system था कि किस तरीके से जो खाना है वो शाहजहाँ के सामने प्रेजेंट करना है. जो हकीम्स होते थे, they were the ones who created menus so that a lot of medicinal herbs and spices were added to the food of Shah Jahan. Each grain of rice of the pulao was coated in silver work because it aided digestion.
नहीं, मैं क्या कह रही हूँ कि सिल्वर खाना अच्छी बात है, but every rice pellet was coated in silver.
शाहजहाँ था, कुछ भी कर सकता था.
Every rice pellet.
Yeah. When Shah Jahan had formed the city of Shahjahanabad and पूरा complete हो गया था, तो जब proper royal grand welcome थी, and when Shah Jahan sat on a boat from Agra and he reached Delhi and he entered his Qila'e-Mu'alla or Red Fort, तो the royal physician was not very happy कि यमुना के पास क्यों ये बनाया है, यमुना का पानी is not suitable for drinking. तब उसके चलते जो रॉयल फिजिशियन थे और जो हकीम्स थे उन्होंने ये सजेस्ट किया कि नॉन वेज फूड के अंदर खूब घी और खूब स्पाइसेस डाला जाए. बट बिकॉज जो शाहजहानाबाद था एक कॉस्मोपॉलिटन शहर था जहाँ पे सिर्फ मुसलमान ही नहीं हिंदू भी रहते थे, बनिया रहते थे, कास्ट कम्युनिटीज़ यूज्ड टू लिव हियर. तो द वंस हु वर नॉट रेलिश मीट और हु वर वेजिटेरियंस, उनके लिए चाट, पानी के बताशे, चाट पापड़ीज, food that had a lot of spices and chutneys, that was introduced because that would help in digestion and that would help in food getting digested, especially the food that is made with Yamuna water. Food was also cooked in rain water and river Ganga water. The food dishes were made of silver and gold and they were studded with semi precious stones and jade. And silver और जो gold का इसलिए भी बनाते थे उस टाइम पे dishes because they could detect if the food is poison. And जब बादशाह खाना खाते थे तो एक उनके already the palace was carpeted, so उसके ऊपर एक leather sheet बिछाई जाती थी. He used to sit on the floor and जब खाना ले होता था उसको दस्तरख्वान बोलते थे. Also before eating he would pray and keep a portion of his food for the poor and he would end his meal with a prayer. And जब ये दस्तरखान पे शाहजहाँ खाते थे तो काफ़ी लॉन्ग आवर्स तक खाते थे because he enjoyed eating food आराम से बैठकर, you know, relish करके. By his time a lot of Indian ingredients were also a part of his royal kitchen. So batashe, false, bananas, sandalwood, white gourd and Kashmiri vadi, they also became a part of his cuisine. Shah Jahan was also very fond of eating fruits and mangoes were his favorite. He also liked getting his fruits weighed in front of him. और एक कहते हैं कि एक बार उन्होंने मैंगोज मंगवाए थे एंड वन ऑफ हिज सन्स वर इन डेक्कन, तो ही हैड आस्क्ड हिम कि डेक्कन में बहुत अमेजिंग मैंगोज मिलते हैं तो मुझे भेजो. बट हिज सन ही एट ऑल द मैंगोज एंड ही पनिश्ड हिम फॉर दैट. आई थिंक इट वॉज औरंगजेब, इट हैज़ टू बी औरंगजेब. सो he was so crazy about mangoes. Mangoes के वो इतने दीवाने थे कि mangoes were also added to his pulaus. Not only mangoes, a lot of dry fruits were added to his dishes, rose water, saffron because of the Persian influence, and pomegranate was also added to many of his dishes. Not only the court और the royal दस्तरखान में काफ़ी खाने को चीज़ें दिखती थी, बट पुरानी दिल्ली की गलियों में भी आप कलिया, कौरमे, कबाब्स की जो खुशबुएँ थे वो सूंघ सकते थे. पुरानी दिल्ली की गलियों में उस वक्त बकर खानी, कुलचे, शीरमल्स भी बेचे जाते थे, शरबत के कटोरे, कुल्फ़ियाँ, ये सारी चीज़ें दे वर पार्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रीट फूड ऑफ पुरानी दिल्ली एंड दे मेड दिस होल सीन वेरी वाइब्रेंट. एंड शाहजहानाबाद और पुरानी दिल्ली was a paradise of food. आज भी मतलब इट वॉज नॉट ओनली बैक देन, बट आज भी जब हम चांदनी चौक का नाम सुनते हैं तो वहाँ के खाने की चीज़ों के नाम जहन में आती हैं. जैसे परांठे वाली गली है, गोलगप्पे है, चाट है नटराज के, और हम जब जामा मस्जिद की तरफ जाते हैं तो वहाँ के कबाब्स, वहाँ के कौरमे, वहाँ के शीरमल, वहाँ के कुलचे एंड दोस्त खमीरी रोटीज़. These dishes, they attract a lot of people and tourists to Purani Delhi. Unfortunately, the last years of Shah Jahan were not so opulent or not so grand because he was deposed by his son Aurangzeb and he was imprisoned for 8 years till his death in 1666. Aurangzeb didn't like spending that much money, and also the treasury was slightly not as good as it was. So Aurangzeb had asked him that you can only have one ingredient from the kitchen. So Shah Jahan chose chickpea because chickpeas could be cooked in various ways. आज भी जो शाहजहानी दाल है, जिस chickpeas cooked in cream gravy is very famous. हमारे आज के आखिरी बादशाह हैं औरंगज़ेब. What are Aurangzeb's favorite fruits? Orange and save, because Aurangzeb.
When Aurangzeb took the throne, he was very puritanical and he fasted a lot, which I still believe is because of the silver coated rice. But he, as it is, he was a vegetarian, as it is, and he preferred lighter meals and he had a preference for fruits. He loved fruits, but he loved mangoes the most. According to Tavernier, who was Aurangzeb's European doctor, but he was also a historian, Aurangzeb ate so less meat that he became thin and lean. He only drank water and ate a small quantity of millet bread. But Aurangzeb also liked eating khichdi and panchmel dal. He was too austere in his habits and eating habits as well. What an end.
You don't have to.
Huh?
You don't have to make a face. Khichdi is nice.
I like khichdi, but
It has to be made with spices and it's tasty.
yeah, no, even regular khichdi. See, I like khichdi. I like it a lot. Even plain khichdi is nice. But when you hear about Mughal Badshah, favorite dish khichdi.
So Mughal Badshah Aurangzeb used to also sew his caps and he would sell it in the market.
That is true.
That was Aurangzeb.
I mean, on the one hand, it's nice, oh, Mughal Badshah khichdi khate hain. But also, Mughal Badshah khichdi khate hain. You know?
Some of
That's
the
a nice
habits
thing.
were like the common people.
Yeah,
The complex human nature.
that is true. That is true. Anyway, so that's all that I have for Aurangzeb.
Yeah.
That he ate khichdi.
Okay. I hope that you have liked and enjoyed today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep watching Tareekh.
तो या मुझे भूख लग गई है, खाना खिला दे.
Korma ki kebabs.
खिचड़ी मत खिलाना.
अब तो वही खिला.